Let's say somewhere in a room there is one boy and two girls. We can express those numbers as fractions, or we can actually express them as ratios. So I'm going to come back to the idea of fractions in a moment. The ratio is pretty much this. We put colons in between and we say the ratio of boy or boys to girls is 1 to 2. Now this means if, for instance, the boys go up to 4 in the classroom or in the room, then the girls will go up to 8, so that the ratio is still 4 to 8. Now how do we get there? We literally take that and we can write it as a fraction. We write it as 1 over 2. And then if you go back to the idea of equivalent fractions, we can create any equivalent fraction by multiplying above and below the line with the same thing. So if we multiply there by 4 and we multiply below the line by 4 as well, effectively what we are doing is we are multiplying with 4 over 4, which is just 1. And anything times by 1 remains the same. So even though the numbers now change, it changes to a 4 above the line and 8 below the line, it still has exactly the same value. It's still just 1 over 2. But we can then go back to this idea where we then write it as 4 colon 8, and that then is considered a ratio. So 1 to 2 is the same as 4 over 8, or 4 to 8 then. And you can go backwards and forwards between fractions and ratios however much you please. And when they ask you to simplify a fraction, for instance, they give you 4 over 8 and they say simplify that fraction, immediately go towards the fraction form. So you write it as 4 over 8, and then you just simplify that fraction, which means 4 goes into itself once and into 8 2 times, and there you've got the original simplified fraction, and that you then just write as 1 to 2, where you've got the simplified ratio. So just remember that idea of jumping backwards and forwards with fractions when you are required to simplify ratios. And then you just need to remember that those original two numbers can also be mixed in a different way. For instance, we can say the number of boys to the total number of kids in the room is 1 to 3, because there's one boy and two girls. So how did we get the 3? We just added those two ratios together. So if we think about the 4 to 8, if we say there are 4 boys and 8 girls in the classroom, what is the ratio of boys to the total number of kids in the class? Then it becomes 4 over 4 plus 8 is 12, or then just 4 to 12. So we just basically add those two together to get the 12, and that then goes below the line. And then you'll see if we take 4 over 12 and you simplify that again, you just get back to a ratio of 1 to 3 anyway. So you can even play around with the different numbers by adding the two ratios together sometimes to just interpret the question itself. It's just very important that you understand where the simplified ratio and the other ratios, like for instance the 4 and the 8, where they come in, how they fit together, how you can work with them, how you can simplify by going to fractions and back, equivalent fractions, the whole works. Everything comes together in one box when you are working with ratios like this.